Hello, my name is Alexandra Golfis, and I am a student at Houston Baptist University, and I am pursuing a master's in clinical mental health counseling. Okay, so let's get started. In the counseling field, it is both our goal and duty to provide the best therapeutic service we can for our clients. Having an understanding of the varying and unique factors clients may face helps to ensure this quality of care. As counselors, it is likely we will counsel clients after they have experienced a disaster. So it is critical to have an awareness to such influencing factors, specifically factors that are unique to disaster given its relevance. So to expand further on this topic, I will now discuss a video, and basically I'm going to answer 3 questions and respond to them. The video that I am discussing is called Needs and Challenges of Disasters. I will provide a link for that at the end of this video. So to begin, let's start off with question 1. What are the needs and challenges of the heroic phase? So when we typically think of the heroic phase, we can mistakenly think that there must be no challenges during such a positive sounding stage. But being aware of not only survivors' challenges stage by stage, but also counselors' challenges stage by stage. So during this stage, we might start experiencing some burnout. And this kind of goes back to the old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. Counselors really need to make sure they do self-care so that way they're able to provide their best services and quality of services, really. The just more self-care you're engaging in, the more likely you are to be, clear-minded and level-headed and be able to make those assessments and judgments clearly and make out the best decisions. But there are also emotional and physical challenges counselors can be aware of. Those will help face those barriers that pop up during this phase, the heroic phase. So for example, survivors typically tend to be a bit more open to accepting and really taking to heart the Lord's message during this sensitive time. They see these religious based communities coming out to provide support and realize just how wonderful and loving it is to be a child of God, and then to have that faith as a resource as well. The main emotional theme to be aware of is definitely denial. Self-care is critical to providing the best care in the long run. Question 2. The honeymoon phase can include a crash point. Describe who, when, and why this may occur. So following the heroic phase, people tend to be exhausted. Once again, that goes to clients and the survivors. Clients are the survivors, and also the counselors. That's especially true if that self-care boundary wasn't established, like we were talking about earlier for counselors. So at this point, you're having bodily, the actual physical reactions that make the denial that was going on during the heroic phase kind of come out to light more, and then we start to completely be depleted of those energies that we need to keep pushing through. So the longevity of resources to help after disasters is definitely a critical aspect. As mentioned in the video, Needs and Challenges of Disasters, the need for longevity and resources was given as an example as seen in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. A lot of elderly people were in massive need of basically critical life-saving resources, and right as the resources were starting to dwindle and their awareness was starting to increase on how much they really did need and rely on these resources, it's like you have to make sure that everything is paced properly so that way we can provide that longevity of care. Even counselors who are at risk for health problems or issues during this phase, the stress also gets to you. You can't just think you're superhuman or gonna get no impacts from the event. Sorry, my animals are going crazy in the background, kind of distracting me. Okay. For me, they're a coping mechanism though at times, and sometimes I question if they are. Lana, stop it, please. So on to question number 3. During the disillusionment phase, fear, anger, and hopelessness can set in. What types of clinical conditions may develop from these circumstances, and what type of treatment is best to overcome them? So during the disillusionment phase, reality really begins to set in. This is why those feelings of fear, anger, and hopelessness start to surface. Then you also have the amount of dwindling outside resources, like, for example, grant funds are starting to dwindle. You're starting to run out, both for survivors and counselors. During this phase, those less immediate concerns start to come to awareness. Crisis resources need to realize the goal is for long-term assistance. You don't want to just completely burn yourself out at the beginning. Following the disillusionment phase, there is certainly an increased need for mental health services as negative coping skills consequences start to arise, as the awareness arises as well. So this is when drinking problems or relationship problems, stuff like that, may start to arise. It's at this point during the disaster response when the chance of suicide starts to increase. So as counselors, we definitely need to be aware of this in order to be proactive and prepared and take the correct actions in order to prevent the likelihood of that. But however, it's not all negative in this phase, or it's not as negative as it may appear, at least. Survivors are also beginning to develop a new normal and now show post-traumatic growth, or at least they can if they're learning how to cope in healthy ways instead of those negative ways, such as drinking. There are also emotional and spiritual interventions that counselors can be aware of to best handle the challenges faced during the disillusionment phase. Let me get a quick little drink. So this phase gives counselors an opportunity to pick up the slack while providing resources and support where the other resources are kind of fading as they're running out of their own funds and materials and stuff like that. So counselors have a unique awareness of burnout as well that we can help to use to ensure that we are providing that long-term care and making those decisions that will enable long-term assistance. So this is a super, honestly, awesome phase, as bad as it may sound for counselors, because the church can have its greatest impact at this point. As the nonprofits leave, the church is still a solid foundation within the community. Additionally, they knew the community personally beforehand and can really step up to the plate and offer that just community support that they need, or just support in general that they need. The church decreases the sense of isolation during this phase and helps bring the community together. After you have, as a counselor, or just any type of resource, once you've helped a person just get back on their feet and even do simple things like get fed, they have this new, sense of trust within your relationship. So they start to feel really connected to you and are more open to hearing what you have to say about basically salvation and God. By the stage, they can start to look at suffering and faith as a positive coping mechanism, and then this is when they can really start to not only survive but thrive after a disaster. So yeah, thank you for watching. I've included a resources list for my responses, so make sure you check it out. Bye-bye.